You have 4 sales calls booked today, but the first one no shows. The second one shows up 10 minutes late and spends the first half an hour asking, so what exactly do you do? Even though they went through your funnel, they saw your ad, they booked the call themselves. And then the third one seems engaged but hits you with the I need to think about it and ghosts all your follow-ups. And then lastly, the fourth one is just a tire kicker who's shopping around and comparing you to 3 other competitors. And you close 0 out of these 4 calls. And you're sitting there thinking, I need a better script, I need a better closer, I need to be better at handling objections. And no, you need to understand that the call was lost before it even started. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly where and why. So when most people struggle with closing clients, they always look at their sales calls. They look at how can they make a better script, they rewrite it 15 different times, they look at how can I get a better closer, and by that stage they have hired like 3 different closers who all underperformed, or then they try to improve their objection handling skills because they keep hearing the same objections over and over again. For example, I need to think about it, what makes you different, can you send me more info, and so on. But you need to understand that your sales problem is not a sales problem. And that may sound very dumb, like how is my sales problem not a sales problem? But the reality is that all deals are either lost or won before the call. It's always a pre-call problem. The real problem actually happens many days prior. It happens when they book the call. And when I say that sales calls are dead, it doesn't mean that you stop doing sales calls. It means that you stop selling on sales calls. Your sales calls should be confirmation, not persuasion. Because if you're still on your sales calls, educating people, building trust, handling objections, answering questions, and on top of that, trying to close them, well, you're doing too much. That's an impossible task. So to be able to fix your sales problem, we need to fix what happens before the call. We need to handle most of the work that you're currently doing on the sales call, all the education, objection handling, trust building. We need to do that before the call, so the call is just closing, just getting the deal across the board. And the underlying problem beneath all of this is that the prospect walked in cold. They didn't understand exactly what you do or how you're different to all the 50 other competitors out in the market, and they haven't been given any reason to actually trust that you can deliver results. So of course the close rate is low. Of course there's a lot of objections. Of course they say I need to think about it, because the prospect doesn't have any information or trust to make a very expensive buying decision in like 1 hour. Like, that's impossible. If your offer is like 2K, 5K, maybe 10K, well, do you think that someone will spend this much money after only 1 hour? I mean, you're still a stranger to them. Obviously, you don't hand 5K to some random stranger. The only reason you're losing deals is because the prospect doesn't have enough trust to make a buying decision, and they don't have enough information to actually know if this is the right fit for them, if they actually need what you have. They don't really know what you do, who you help, and if you can actually help them and their situation. But the reason why that's not happening right now is because there's most likely a gap within your business. So everything obviously starts from your ads, from your content. And what most people have after that is just a generic landing page from where people go to book a call on their calendar, and after that they have their sales calls. And some people have like some generic Calendly reminders before the call or other similar things. But as you see here, there's nothing that builds trust. There's nothing that puts conviction into the prospect's mind. There's nothing that gets them in the correct emotional state to buy. There's nothing that gives them the required information to make a very expensive buying decision. I mean, they have like spent maybe 30 seconds in your ad or your content, they spent maybe like 3 minutes on your landing page, and they spent maybe 1 minute on your calendar and reading your reminders. So, I mean, they have spent with you like 5 minutes at most. So, do you expect them to make a buying decision after being on a 1 hour call and spending 5 minutes before it? I mean, they've spent just over an hour with you. So do you now realize how clear it is why your sales calls are so hard? Why it's so hard to close prospects? Do you realize how stupid it is to believe that someone will close on your calls after like only seeing like an ad, only seeing your landing page? I mean, obviously that's not going to happen. But this is what most people are running. They believe that they can only have a landing page, only have their content, only have their calendar, and still be able to close clients easily on sales calls. But when I now show this to you, you realize how stupid that actually is. Because again, you need to realize that most prospects decide whether they buy or not before the call. So your prospects will choose if they buy your service based on your ad or content, based on your landing page, and based on your calendars, and based on your few reminders that you send. So they will judge if they buy based on your 5 minutes of interaction. You know, the call is not where decisions are made, it's where the decision is confirmed or denied. You know, if they arrive with trust, if they arrive pre-aligned, if they arrive with all the necessary information, well, then they buy. But if they arrive cold, then they never buy. And better ads won't fix this, because however good you make your ads, I mean, your ads can't be that long. You can't have like a 1 hour ad. Obviously, like the maximum length of your ads can be like maybe 5 minutes, and that's still nothing. And like you can optimize your cost per lead how much you want, but you need to also realize that if you optimize for lower cost per lead, you're at the same time optimizing for lower quality leads, because the lower quality leads, the unqualified ones, they are always going to be the cheapest ones, because they are always a majority of your market. They are always the ones who want to opt in for like free things. So if you optimize for lower cost per lead, you optimize for the cheapest ones. And if you get low quality leads, well then you won't get that many booked calls. Then most of your booked calls will just no show. And the ones that do show up to the call, well, they have a lot of objections, a lot of questions, or they just don't have the money to pay for your services. And you already realize also that the problem is not your sales call, your scripts. I already talked about that. So the real problem sits somewhere between your ads, your marketing, and between your sales call. The problem sits somewhere here in between. But in most businesses, the marketing department and the sales department are two different like entities. You know, marketing's job is to generate leads, and the job of sales is to then close those leads. Here, in between the marketing and the sales call, what is right there? I mean, that's a black hole within your business. And that's actually the most important part. That's where all the prospects die. And what's so funny is that this creates an argument between the marketing department and the sales department in most businesses. You know, marketing is saying that we are bringing you plenty of leads, but sales is blaming marketing and saying that all the leads are unqualified and garbage. So this creates like a disconnect within your business. The problem is that nobody owns what happens here in between the click in the marketing and the close on the sales call. And here's proof. I mean, just think about it. Think about the difference between an inbound organic lead and a cold ad lead. I mean, the inbound organic lead, well, they almost always show up to the call. They show up pre-sold. I mean, they show up ready to buy. They know exactly what you do. They know exactly how your process works. They know who you help. They've seen your case studies. I mean, they are so easy to close. They just want to throw money at you. But compare that to cold leads that you get from ads. I mean, they have a much lower show-up rate. And when they do show up to the call, they have a lot of objections. They have a lot of questions. They don't really understand what you do. They don't really understand who you help. They need to always think about it, and they are like very hard to close and very hard to manage. And what's the only difference between these two? I mean, you still have the same offer, you have the same closer, but like the trust and understanding, the information that they have received, that's different. Because the inbound organic lead, well, they have seen your YouTube videos, and if they are from referrals, well, then they have trust already like pre-built within them. They have read your emails, so like they are so easy to close. But the cold ad leads, they've seen your ad, they have seen your landing page, and they've seen your calendar, but then nothing. So obviously they have a lot of objections and they're very hard to close. And you all know this. When you get a warm organic inbound lead, you know that they are so easy to close. They're your dream. Like if all your leads could behave like warm organic leads, then that would be the dream, right? I mean, just think about how nice it would be if you could make your cold ad leads behave exactly the same like a warm organic inbound leads. I mean, then you would just crush it. And that's what's required to be able to close clients easily. But I just want you to realize that the only difference here is what happens before the call, what they consume before the call, what they understand, what they know, how much they trust you. That's the only difference. So this right here is exactly everything that you need to do before the call to actually achieve this. The first thing is that they need to trust you. You need to build trust before the call. By the time they get to the call, they should already know who you are, who you help, what you do, how your process works. They should have experienced your expertise before the call. They should have got a taste of like how good you are and the results that you can bring them, and they should have consumed your case studies and testimonials. That way the call becomes, here's my situation, does this apply to me? Instead of who are you and what do you do? Then the next thing is consumption equals conviction. So what you need to know is that the more time someone spends with you, the more likely they are to actually buy, to become clients. And Google has a study on this, and it says that on average, it takes around 7 hours of exposure to turn someone from a stranger to a client. And if you remember the example that I showed you, well, you only spend like 5 minutes with people before they book a call. And Google says it takes 7 hours. I mean, do you see how far off you are? And I know it's very hard to actually achieve the 7 hours of exposure, like in today's trust economy, because people have so many things going on. And so, like, if they give like 2 or 3 hours of their time to you, that's already very impressive and so much better than only 5 minutes. So the thing you need to know is that the more time someone spends with you, the more likely they are to buy. So we need to try to actually engineer this. We need to try to force everyone to spend as much time with you as possible before the call. Then the next thing is that you want to systemize things. You want to handle all your objections before the call. You want to answer all their questions before the call. And you want to do all the education once before the call. You don't want to educate every single prospect again and again and again on every single sales call. What you want to do is you want to record small videos where you overcome all your most common objections and where you answer your most common questions. And then you want to record one like big video where you do all the education that you usually do on your sales calls. So then what you do with those videos is that you put the big like methodology video first on your thank you page after people book a call. And again, in this video, you explain how your methodology works, how your process works, exactly what you do, why it works, and so on. You just take all the education that you usually do on sales calls and put it in this one video. That way, you don't have to do it ever again, because prospects will just watch this video before they get on the call. And then all the like mini videos where you overcome objections and answer questions, well, these videos are below the main video on your thank you page. So that way, everyone will come to your sales calls pre-aligned. And then the fourth thing is that you need to try to make all your cold leads or the cold prospects as warm as possible before the call. And this again comes with watching videos, consuming your content, and being educated about exactly what you do. If they have their questions answered, well, then they will be warm. If you can demonstrate your expertise before the call, if you can give them like the small taste of how like valuable you are, then they will become much more warm. And again, you want to do this before they book a call. And lastly, things need to feel personal, not automated. So what so many do is that they use these like automated and standard like Calendly reminders that say like your call is tomorrow with John at 5 p.m. I mean, everyone knows that that reminder is automated. Everyone knows that you haven't put in any effort. And if they know that you haven't put in any effort, well, then they won't put in any effort either. I mean, things go both ways. But if you actually put in effort. I mean, if you record personalized reminders for every single prospect, if you take out your phone and record like a selfie video for every single prospect that books a call, if they hear you saying their name, if they realize that you have put in effort for them, well, then they will also put in effort and show up to the call and be more ready to actually buy. And like they take you more seriously because if you have like these automated reminders, well, they will just feel like a number to your business. But if you actually take your time and record personalized reminders and show that you actually give a fuck, that you actually care about them, then that builds a real connection with them. And people buy from other people. People buy from someone that they have a connection with. And like another thing that you want to do is you want to have like a conversation with them before the call. You want to chat with them before the call. And this builds that personal connection even further. And in this conversation, you can also ask your discovery questions. So instead of spending like 20 minutes every single call asking some questions, you can ask these questions before the call in like with SMS. So that does two things. It like shortens the calls, makes them easier, but also builds a connection before the call. And this right here matters right now more than ever because person to person trust is at an all-time low right now. You know, people are more skeptical than ever. They have seen all kinds of promises and they have got garbage results from like 10 other people. So they are justified to be skeptical. There's a reason why they don't trust you and why they need so much time to actually commit. And on the other hand, traditional marketing is also dying all the time. You know, people can see right through your marketing. They can see right through that you're selling to them. You know, people see right through direct response marketing. And if they know that you're just selling to them, well, they won't trust you. People don't like to be sold to. So to wrap things up, you need to understand that every single problem that you have right now regarding sales is actually a pre-call problem. The problem stems from before the call. So low show-up rates, well, that just means that the prospect didn't value your call enough. I mean, every single person has many different things to do at once, and you obviously choose the thing that you value the most. And if they didn't really understand what you do or how you can benefit them, or if they didn't trust you, or if they didn't think that you can actually deliver results to them, well, then they don't value your call and then they won't show up. And again, you fix that before the call in your pre-call system. And if you have long sales cycles and like 2 to 3 call closes, and that again is a problem that stems from before the call. If they haven't received enough information before the first call to make a buying decision, well, then they will need 2 or 3 calls to close. Again, it takes around 7 hours to take someone from a stranger to a client. So if they have spent 0 hours with you before the call, well, then it's obvious that they need 2 or 3 1 hour calls to be able to make a buying decision, because then they have spent more time with you, then they have received more information, then you have a time to build enough trust to demonstrate your expertise and so on. But to be able to have one call closes, then you need to transfer all the things that are happening during call 1 and 2 to before the first call. That way they have enough information to make a buying decision on the first call. And that's exactly the same problem as when people say, I need to think about it. They just don't have enough information to make a buying decision right now. Then, if they're comparing you on price, they haven't experienced your value. You haven't explained your methodology or process clearly enough. And the biggest problem is that they haven't experienced your value before the call. They haven't gotten a taste of the results that you can deliver to them. And that's again a pre-call problem. If you have founder-dependent closing, well, I talked about this in this video, but well, that's because the founder can demonstrate expertise live. So you need to take that demonstration and put it before the call so that the closer can close as easily as the founder can. If you have a high objection volume, well, then you haven't overcome the objections before the call. Instead, you want to do as I showed you and create these mini videos on the thank you page that overcome the objections ever before they speak to you for the first time. And then lastly, if your close rates drop when you scale ad spend, well, that just means that you get colder and colder prospects, and as I told you, cold prospects are very hard to close, because every time you increase ad spend, you always go to colder and colder markets. And if they arrive cold to the call, well, that's a pre-call problem. You haven't warmed them up enough before the call. As you see, all these problems are pre-call problems. They're not problems that stem from your sales calls. So if you want to see the exact systems that you need to implement to actually solve these problems, well, I have multiple other videos on this topic on my channel, so go and watch them after this one. But if you have any more questions right now, I will leave my Instagram in the description below, so feel free to shoot me a DM and I'll be more than happy to help you out. See you in the next one. So if you take nothing else away from this video, this is what I want you to do. Go and take your last 10 to 20 sales call transcripts and then feed all of those into AI and let AI extract all the objections you get, all the questions you answer, all the explanation you have to do, all the education you have to do, what actually gets someone over the line, what you do to actually close someone, what's missing when you can't close someone. And then AI will tell you all the objections that you need to overcome, all the questions that you need to answer, all the explanation you have to do, all the education you have to do. And then when you have all of that, then you can actually go and record the assets and put them before the call. This is how you solve the problem. So go and take your 10 to 20 sales call transcripts, or you can go listen to the calls yourself if you don't want to use AI, but then take the objections that you get and record a video where you overcome them and put them before the call. Take all the questions that you need to answer and record a video where you answer them and put them before the call. Take all the education and explanation you always do and record a video and put it before the call. This is exactly how you solve your sales problem.